Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Arcane, the final episode of Act 1, because I guess I've heard that this series is 3 acts. I don't know what exactly that's going to mean, but okay. So, I've been mixed on this series so far. I wasn't really invested with Chapter 1. Or with episode 1, rather. Episode 1 did not invest me in the characters or the story. I wasn't into it. There was a lot of it that was a little generic. And for as much as it was trying to make you care about the likes of Vi and Powder and all, I just didn't. Episode 2 was better, but not really for the Vi and Powder stuff. It introduced Jace and Caitlyn and Heimerdinger and other characters like that who are far more interesting to me. Jace is, from first impressions with episode 2, a much better character. And it's wild to me because you would think that I would like Vi and Powder better because I typically tend to like characters like that. Characters who are down on their luck and have to basically fight against the powers of the oppressors, the rich, and just in general well off. I tend to agree with that. I tend to think like, yeah, I would like those types of characters more than the guy who's already well off and just kind of gets screwed out of it by a mistake that's not even his own. But Jace is just more interestingly written to me. He's more like the writing, the voice acting, the work that they put into it makes him more likable. It makes him more interesting and more just investing. I'm not a huge fan of Vi as it stands right now. She's kind of an asshole. She's kind of annoying. And Powder, while I like Powder a lot more, it's like she's not really anything right now. Like, yeah, I know it's obvious she becomes Jinx and everything, and I do like Jinx from the game, from League of Legends, but she's such a blank slate that all she's doing is just taking on all she's doing is reacting. She's reacting to what others say or do and not actually having anything of her own. She doesn't feel like a character. She feels like almost like a plot device. Jace feels like a character. Jace I care about. And the council feel more like characters. They're bad guys. And they're horrible, and I hate them. But they feel like characters, and they make me feel that emotion. Vi and Powder, outside of Vi being annoying, and Powder just being practically not even a character, they don't really elicit much of any real response out of me. Because I haven't found a reason to care about them as characters, one way or the other. And then there's the other two, Milo and the other kid, I don't remember his name. They're expendable as fuck. So is the father figure. I don't remember his name at the moment either. All three of them are expendable as fuck. And honestly, I don't see them making it through this series. I've talked about this, I don't know if it was last time or in episode 1, maybe both. But either way, I've already mentioned how, honestly, they could very easily die. Just to push the plot forward, just to push Vi and Powder's story forward, they could easily die. And honestly, I believe they will. It might even be what drives Powder crazy and turns her into Jinx. Maybe. Unclear on that one. And then there's just like, I just feel that this hasn't done enough yet. And I'm hoping that changes. If this is the end of the first act, they're probably going to have something happen. Which means I hope that they spend the time leading up to that actually making me care about these characters and what's going on with them and everything. Outside of just, general basic generic, like, oh yeah, I feel kind of generically sad for your story just because you're in that position, but I don't actually have real investment in your character at all. I want to be invested. So far I am not. As I've said before, I don't really have any like set period as to when I would like want this to really improve. But I really do want it to improve. Again, episode 2 was definitely better than episode 1. Not even a question. But I'm really hoping that it gets even better from here. Because I even tried to go and watch some reactions to this, like from even someone like Blind Wave, who I really like. I couldn't do it. I couldn't find the energy or the investment to do so. I chose to spend my time doing other stuff that I would much rather do. And I almost never do that. Like, even with shows that I'm not exceptionally enjoying, I tend to watch reactions to them if I'm watching them still. Like with the Loki series, I still watched reactions to that, even if just a few for certain episodes. I still did because I wanted to see what other people thought. Excuse me. But this, it's like I could not force myself to, and it's like I only watched like one reaction to episode 1 as well. It's just, I'm not invested in this. I'm not into it yet. So I'm really, really hoping that this does change. And people have been saying in the comments that they are excited for me to get to episode 3. And people keep asking me, oh, are you getting to episode 3? When are you getting to episode 3? And it's like, chill, people. So that does imply to me that it's a big episode. And I really wish you guys wouldn't do that. But hyping me up on something like that just... It does affect how I view the things, and not always in a good way. Either way, we'll see how this pans out. I'm hoping to like this a lot more than I am, but we'll have to see. So let's just get into this, hope for the best, and see what episode 3 has in store. Excuse me. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, with the way that people were hyping up this episode, I was expecting maybe some notable surprises, or just something I wouldn't expect. I was expecting to be surprised. And almost nothing from this surprised me. This kind of went not exactly as I thought it would, but the results of it are what I expected. Milo, Claggor, and Vander all dying not only made sense, but was guaranteed to happen. They were complete throwaway characters who were literally there to move forward the plot. They were never going to survive. They were always going to die. It just... I didn't necessarily know it was going to happen the way it did, that Powder was basically going to be the cause of at least Milo and Claggor's death. And I guess to a lesser degree, Vander's. Though that one was more on Silco and him. Vander kind of... He kind of put the final nail in the coffin himself, to be completely fair. But it was mostly Silco and the blonde toady who are really at fault there. And the blonde toady's only like that because of Silco, so it's really just Silco. But yeah, even the part, like, once I saw what was going on and saw that it was going to be Powder and everything, even the part with, like, Vi blowing up at her and everything, yeah, of course that was going to happen. Especially after Milo, Claggor, and Vander died. Like, of course that was going to happen. And the part that actually surprised me is that she actually tried to turn back for her. I thought she was just going to straight up abandon her. That part, I feel, would have actually added to it. But I'm also kind of glad, because that means Vi isn't as much of a total jackass. She was pretty bad towards Powder there. Like, she has to understand that Powder did not mean to do that. And I think she did. I think that did click with her. But at the same time, it's like, she also did leave her after that realization came. And it's like, again, I don't blame Vi for getting upset. She has every right to be upset, and honestly, I'd be upset if she weren't. She lost her father, her brothers. Like, it was horrific. If she weren't upset, there would be a problem. So I'm fine with the fact that she was upset. My issue is the way she took it out on Powder. Again, I understand why she did so, and I very much don't, like, 100% blame her for her grief-stricken reaction to all of that. But she was still an asshole. That's undeniable. But luckily, she did try to go back afterwards. Unfortunately, Powder doesn't know that. This is definitely facilitating Powder's transformation into Jinx, along with Silco now kind of bringing her in. Oh yeah, 100%. Um, but yeah, almost everything else here. It's like I didn't necessarily expect Silco to get involved, but once he did, I could tell where it was going. I could tell that it was going to end with, again, especially once you saw, of course, Vi, Milo, and Clagger are going to get involved as well. They're going to go try to save Vander. Of course, this is what's going to be the cause of Vander's death. It's going to be the cause of Milo and Clagor's deaths. Of course it is. Again, this is apparently split into 3 acts, and this is the end of Act 1. Yeah, of course they're going to do it. Plus, this was hyped up. This episode, people have been hyping it up, so, like, yeah, everything kind of told me that that was going to happen. Um, I was surprised that the one dude died. I can't remember his name. Vander's friend, who was, I guess he was Echo's guardian. I think. It's unclear. um, but yeah, I didn't expect him to die. So that one did catch me off guard. I didn't expect Vi to be taken by an enforcer at the end there. Um, but I guess that kind of works for what I know she becomes and everything. Um, so there's that. And yeah, it's just everything kind of works out. I just wish it wouldn't have gone in the direction I exactly planned or thought it was going to. Basically, I kind of wish Vander survived. I kind of wish Milo and Clagor survived, even though they really didn't serve a purpose outside of dying for the sake of the plot and the characters. I kind of wish they survived just to prove me wrong, but no. Yeah, they were obviously going to die, and they did. Um, so then there was the B plot, which last episode was more interesting than the A plot. This episode, kind of just as interesting. They kind of kept equal to me in this one. Because I will admit, this was the best episode yet. And definitely for the Vi Powder storyline. 100% it definitely did better than the first 2 episodes in terms of that. But then we have the Jace storyline, where him and Heimerdinger's former assistant, who I cannot remember the name of right now, continue their work on Hextech. They decide to break into Heimerdinger's workshop to get what they need to finish it. And upon arriving, they end up running into this councilwoman who we had seen before. She decides to give them one chance. And so they continue their break-in, and they start to work. Unfortunately, the light is seen from the window, and that causes Heimerdinger to go up there alongside some guards and try to break in. And when they eventually do, they find that Jace's experiment has succeeded. And while Heimerdinger is clearly impressed, he also notes that this is not a good thing, that it's something we shouldn't be doing, even though we can. It makes me think of like the line from Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they can do it to ask whether or not they should. It very much reminds me of that. That is 100% Heimerdinger's mindset there. But the other councilwoman comes in right at that time and is like, no, I like this. I like what I see. Maybe it is time for this stuff, for magic. And Jason's like, no, for Hextech. And it's like, it's like you have to be a smarmy little bitch right at that moment, eh? I like Jace. I really like Jace. I think he's fun. And he's likable. He's just extremely likable. I still don't trust the dude with him, though. I get a bad feeling about him. But we see that, I guess Heimerdinger kind of gives in at the end. It kind of looks like that. And so they're just floating around, I guess, trying to figure out how to get down now. So we'll see where that storyline goes. That one didn't really have as conclusive an ending as the Powder Vi one. That one felt more conclusive as an ending for Act 1. The Jace one felt more open-ended. Like there's more possibilities for that one. Maybe that's just me. I mean, either way, I very much enjoyed this episode. It was not as hype as people were hyping it up to be. It wasn't. People made it seem like it was going to be like this grand spectacle, and it just wasn't. And maybe it's because I did see the deaths coming. Maybe it's because I did see those coming that it didn't shock me as much. Maybe some people who were watching this like genuinely just did not think that was going to happen. But it's like, from my perspective, it's like that was literally the only points of their characters, and that was super obvious from the get-go. Vander, Milo, and Claggor had no character outside of being plot devices to push Vi and Powder forward. And it's like and as far as plot device characters go, they weren't the worst or anything. I've seen that kind of thing done very poorly. But they definitely were plot device characters. They were there for the purpose to die. And it's so blatantly obvious. They're not the worst example of that I've seen, but I still am not a huge fan of that trope. It's still just not the greatest to write characters like that. Especially when it's so fucking obvious that they are like that. But now we go into Act 2 next week. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how things go with now Powder being with Silco. Presumably going to be going into Jinx fairly soon, I would assume. Maybe right away in Act 2. And who knows what's going to happen with Vi, because she was taken by an enforcer. Is she going to be arrested? Because they did say they wanted, the council wanted someone to pin this all on. And Vander was going to give himself up, but that went to shit. And even his friend, the enforcer lady, who has the same voice actor, by the way, I found out, as that one masked character from the Mass Effect series. So that's an interesting little fun fact. I've never played or seen anyone play Mass Effect, so I only know of the character from random clips I've seen. But yeah, I found out apparently they have the same voice, and it's like, oh, neat. That was pretty much my reaction. It's like, it's neat. There's nothing, I have nothing against it at all. She has a fine voice. It's just neat. It just, because I don't know Mass Effect, it doesn't have as big of an impact on me as it would like for others. Like, it doesn't click with me as much. But yeah, either way, I'm definitely interested to see what happens with these characters going forward. I would think, based on what Vi had shown there, that she would try to reconnect with Powder. if she gets out or she escapes or whatever happens, because she clearly was trying to protect Powder at the end there. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Because, again, I kind of know where she goes, because I know the champion from League of Legends. I know she basically becomes a cop. And it's like, ooh, that's a bad look for you, girl. That is a really bad look for you. Considering you come from an oppressed living situation and people, and you kind of hated Piltover for their oppression and everything. Yeah. It's never good to become like law enforcement in that kind of situation. Granted, I don't know how it's going to go. I just know that she does become basically a cop. Though I also know Caitlyn does too, so I'm wondering how that's going to go. Because we've only seen Caitlyn in episode 2. So, and she was like, she admittedly was the daughter of these rich people, so I could see that one. But we'll have to see how that goes. Like, I assume she's going to be more of a character because I've heard people mention her. I not within context. I don't know context or anything. But I've heard people mention her. And I know people ship her with Vi. I do know that because I've seen some fan art. So I assume they're probably going to connect at some point. They're probably going to have interactions. I don't know the context. I don't know the details of what happens in these episodes. But I did want to let you guys know that there were those couple things I have heard about. I don't know what's going to happen with Jace going forward either. I guess we're just going to have to find out. But yeah, like I said, that was definitely the best episode yet. Both in terms of the A and B plots. And I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. So, we'll continue with Act 2 next week, then. See how that all turns out. So, yeah. Nothing else to say, so... Sorry, I'm a bit awkward sometimes. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See you all next time.